Less than 20 minutes remained until landing. The route of the McDonnell Douglas MD-82 had been completely altered by an act of madness in the vast sky. The plan had been meticulously crafted. 3 fuel bottles with perfect concealment went unnoticed inside the plane. A cold movement, and suddenly, fire erupted among the passengers. Within minutes, everyone was engulfed in toxic smoke. The plane lost control, and the final cries for help echoed into the undefined space. Why did he do it? What drove a father, a businessman, to make the decision to sacrifice 112 lives in a tragic act? Everything will be revealed next. At 7 p.m. on day 0 of month 0, 2002, at the International Airport in the capital of Beijing, China. This is one of the busiest and most important aviation hubs in the world. Each day, this airport receives hundreds of flights, serving both domestic and international passengers. In Terminal 1, T1, technicians were rushing to finish preparations for a regular commercial flight operated by China Northern Airlines. The flight was numbered CJ6136. It was scheduled to depart from Beijing en route to Dalian Zhoushuisi International Airport, located about 520 kilometers away, following a northeast course. The journey typically lasts around 1 hour and 20 minutes under normal weather conditions. The aircraft in operation was a McDonnell Douglas MD-82, registration B2138 with serial number 49522. This is a U.S.-made narrow-body twin-engine model manufactured in 1991, which up to that point had accumulated 27,000 flight hours. However, this MD-82 had experienced 2 serious safety incidents in the past. Both occurred in 1993, and interestingly, the aircraft was forced to divert to Taipei, Taiwan, instead of reaching its intended destination, Fuzhou. The first incident happened on November 12, 1993. On a flight from Changchun to Fuzhou, 2 Chinese passengers armed with surgical knives and fake bombs threatened the crew and demanded the plane be rerouted to Taiwan. The aircraft landed safely in Taipei, and all 82 occupants survived. Less than a month later, on December 8, 1993, the MD-82 was once again the target of an attack. This time, the flight was from Qingdao to Fuzhou, and a Chinese passenger injured a flight attendant and claimed to be carrying a bomb. Once again, the plane was diverted and landed safely in Taipei. All 137 passengers were unharmed, and no bombs were found in either incident. Despite these episodes, up to that date, the aircraft maintained an impeccable maintenance record. Prior to today's flight, it had passed its routine technical inspection and had the necessary fuel on board, meeting all safety requirements for a standard commercial flight to Dalian. The cabin crew consisted of 6 members. The captain, Baogang, was 35 years old with over 5,000 accumulated flight hours. His co-pilot, Li Xian, was 28 and had approximately 2,000 hours of cockpit experience. The flight attendants, most with moderate experience, were responsible for ensuring the safety and comfort of the passengers during the journey. At 7:25 p.m., Flight CJ6136 began boarding 112 passengers. Among them were families, business travelers, and a few tourists who had planned their trip in advance. The atmosphere was calm, typical of a domestic night flight. At 7:55 p.m., the aircraft was cleared to taxi to the runway. The captain performed final checks, ensuring all systems were fully operational. With the thrust of its engines, the MD-82 smoothly ascended into the skies over Beijing. The passengers barely noticed the maneuver. To them, it was just another flight in their daily routine. For the first 30 minutes, everything proceeded normally. The aircraft reached its cruising altitude of 8,000 meters. The flight attendants began serving drinks and offering snacks to the passengers. The captain and co-pilot maintained constant communication with air traffic control, receiving weather updates and confirming the route to Dalian. However, behind the apparent normalcy, something was about to shatter the routine. An act of premeditation had infiltrated the cabin and the aisles, with consequences no one could have foreseen. Less than an hour after takeoff, the atmosphere inside the plane changed. A series of unexpected explosions and flames rocked the cockpit and passenger cabin. Smoke spread rapidly, creating panic among those on board. The aircraft began to lose altitude and control as the final cries for help mixed with the roar of the engines. What had begun as an ordinary flight turned into a foretold tragedy where every decision and every action would have irreversible consequences. At 8:40 p.m., just 45 minutes after takeoff, the situation inside the MD-82 became critical. Smoke filled the cabin, and the smell of burning was overwhelming. Passengers began to scream and move chaotically, searching for an exit. Some tried to stay calm, while others fell into complete panic. The flight attendants did everything they could to assist the passengers. They attempted to guide people toward the emergency exits, but the fire and smoke made any evacuation effort extremely difficult. The captain, meanwhile, struggled to maintain control of the aircraft. He attempted emergency maneuvers as the cockpit filled with alarms and desperation. On the ground, air traffic control was receiving emergency alerts. Rescue procedures were initiated, and ambulances and firefighters were positioned near the airport. However, the severity of the fire and the speed at which it spread left very little time to act or prevent disaster. The following minutes were a desperate fight for survival. Some passengers managed to contact their families, leaving farewell messages. Others clung to hope that the plane might land safely, though the fire inside the fuselage made every second more critical and dangerous. What had begun as a routine flight had turned into a scene of absolute chaos where every move and every decision became a matter of life and death. With great effort, the captain managed to steer the aircraft toward the nearest runway. Despite the smoke and flames, the landing was carried out, though with challenging and risky maneuvers. Upon touching down, passengers were quickly evacuated through the emergency exits. Firefighters and rescue personnel were ready to assist, and many passengers were immediately taken to hospitals due to smoke inhalation or minor injuries. Fortunately, thanks to the rapid response and strict safety protocols, an even greater tragedy was averted. Subsequently, authorities launched an investigation to determine the cause of the fire. Every aspect of the flight was examined: the aircraft's maintenance, the crew's communications, and the passengers' responses. Reports revealed mechanical failures in the electrical system, which likely triggered the fire. The quick actions of the flight attendants and the captain were also highlighted for saving lives. The incident had a lasting impact on aviation safety regulations. New measures were implemented to prevent onboard fires, along with more intensive training for crew members and more efficient evacuation procedures. Although the event was terrifying, it became a powerful example of how preparation, coordination, and calm under pressure can make the difference between tragedy and survival.